My husband lied repeatedly about being alone with another woman from work, made me feel crazy for questioning it, and then blamed me for not creating a safe space for him to tell the truth. Now I don't know if I'm dealing with emotional cheating, gaslighting, or both. My husband Adam, male 37, and I, female 29, have been together for nearly 8 years. He works at a music lounge/restaurant, kind of an upscale club vibe, and most of his coworkers are women. It's never really bothered me. He's sociable, and the environment's always been part of the package with him. He's the kind of guy people like to be around. Relaxed, talkative, a little too charming for his own good sometimes. Usually, he gets off work around midnight or 1 a.m., depending on how late things run. Sometimes, after his shift, he'll grab a drink with coworkers at the bar next door. It's casual. I've never wanted to be the partner who micromanages every interaction, especially when you're in a nightlife scene. You have to be at least somewhat laid back about it. But about a year ago, something happened that made it harder for me to stay as easygoing. That night, Adam texted me around midnight to say he was just finishing up drinks with some coworkers and would be home soon. Then, a little later, he messaged again saying he'd forgotten his car keys back at the club and had to wait for his manager to finish their drink before they could walk back and unlock the door for him. That made sense at first, until it didn't. Because it wasn't 20 minutes. Or even 45. It was over an hour and a half before he finally texted that his manager was done, and they were heading back. And yes, maybe this is my own baggage, but he shares his location with me, and out of anxiety or curiosity, maybe both, I checked it. He went back toward the club like he said, but then just loitered in the parking lot. He never even went inside. He just stayed there, barely moving, for at least another half an hour. When he came home, I asked him point blank what had taken so long. Why he never went in for his keys. He seemed tired, not evasive, but not totally honest either. He said his manager had decided not to leave after all, so he just caught a ride with Rachel, one of his coworkers, mid-30s, laid back, one of the girls I've heard about but never met. Apparently, they sat in the parking lot and smoked a couple joints before she gave him a ride home. Now, let me be clear. We live in a legal state. Weed isn't the issue here. It was the weirdness, the way the story kept shifting. First it was about the keys, then it wasn't. First it was the manager, then it was Rachel. I don't think I would have had such a strong reaction if everything just lined up. But it didn't. And when you're left alone at home at 1:30 in the morning, watching your husband's location hover in a dark parking lot while texting you a story that doesn't quite add up, you start asking questions. A couple days later, something else happened. Adam had a day off, but told me he was heading into the club to help his manager with inventory. A new system had just come in, and he wanted to help get it set up. He said it wouldn't take more than an hour, maybe an hour and a half tops. 3 hours later, he still wasn't home. I texted. No reply. Eventually, he got back to me and said they'd hit some unexpected snags, and he just lost track of time. And again, that might sound innocent to someone else. But once that seed of doubt gets planted, it starts growing on its own. You start wondering, why is everything so casual with him, but so tense with me when I ask questions? Why does it always feel like I'm the one being too sensitive when I express discomfort? The following week, I found myself at the bar with Adam and a few of his coworkers. I'm not usually the type to tag along to post-shift drinks, but after everything that had gone down the week before, the weird delay with the car keys, the loitering in the parking lot, the awkward explanations, I think I just wanted to feel present in his world again. Like, maybe if I inserted myself back into the spaces he was drifting in and out of, it would make me feel less suspicious, less distant. That night, I ended up chatting with Rachel, the coworker Adam had told me gave him a ride home. It came up casually. I wasn't trying to corner her or catch anyone in a lie. I think I just wanted confirmation, reassurance, maybe, that the story I'd been told was real. That I was just overthinking things like I've been told so many times before. So, I brought it up. I said something like, "Hey, thanks for giving Adam a ride last week. He told me you guys were out in the parking lot for a while after work." She looked at me like I'd just spoken another language. Kind of tilted her head, then said, "What? I didn't give him a ride home." Just like that. No hesitation. My stomach dropped. It was like I could feel every piece of the puzzle suddenly scattering across the floor. I blinked, smiled awkwardly, changed the subject. But inside, I was spiraling. I excused myself a few minutes later, walked outside and texted Adam. "Did Rachel give you a ride home that night or not?" It took him a few minutes to respond, and when he did, he said, "Oh shit, no, sorry, I meant Sarah gave me a ride." I must have just said the wrong name. Sarah. His other coworker. The 23-year-old. The one he never mentioned being there that night. It was like pulling at a loose thread and watching the whole sweater unravel. Because now I was remembering that when he texted me that night from the bar, he listed off everyone who was there, name by name, and Sarah hadn't made the cut. He had told me his manager was the one he was waiting on. Said the manager didn't want to leave yet. Said the manager had his keys. Except, later, I found out something else. The manager, who Adam had positioned as the male chaperone of the story, the buffer that made everything sound less threatening, hadn't even been there. The manager is sober. Doesn't drink. Wasn't out at the bar that night. And, according to a mutual friend who works with them, hadn't been anywhere near the place. So now I had this revised timeline. Adam left work, hung out with Sarah in the parking lot, got high with her, and she gave him a ride home. All of which he actively concealed. Not just by omission but by fabricating a completely different version of events, one that conveniently inserted a sober male authority figure and swapped out Sarah for Rachel, a coworker closer to our age and, let's be real, probably less threatening in my eyes. And that would have been enough to shake me, but then came the kicker. A few days before this bar night, Adam had gone into work on his day off to help the manager with inventory. He said it would take an hour. He was gone for over 3. And guess what I found out? It wasn't the manager he was helping. It was Sarah. The same Sarah he hadn't told me was there that night at the bar. The same Sarah who now, 2 separate times, he had been alone with, but only after lying to me and replacing her with someone else in the story. When I confronted him, I was livid. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely speak straight. I asked him point blank, "Why are you lying to me about being alone with her? Why can't you just be honest if there's nothing going on?" His response? He looked at me like I'd slapped him and said, "Because you'd flip out." And then the floodgates opened. He told me that he developed these habits during his last relationship. His ex was controlling, emotionally manipulative, didn't allow him to hang out with other women, even in group settings, unless there were other men around. He said that he learned to add a dick into the mix, as he so eloquently put it, to soften the optics. That saying, "I'm at the bar with Rachel, Sarah, and the manager," sound a lot better than "I'm just with Sarah." I asked him why, if he wasn't doing anything wrong, he didn't just tell the truth from the beginning. Why build an entire story around someone who wasn't even there? He didn't have a good answer. Or maybe he did, and I just didn't want to hear it. Because by then I was already spiraling. I accused him of cheating. He denied it, over and over. I kept asking, then why the fuck lie? And each time, he came back to the same narrative, because you're scary when you're upset. The fight was bad. It lasted for days. We barely spoke. And I'm not proud of this next part, but I need to be honest. I started snooping. I went through his phone when he left it unattended. Checked his DMs, texts, even email. Looked through his social media for signs of secret accounts or flirty exchanges. I wanted to find something, anything that would prove I wasn't crazy, that this gut instinct I had wasn't just paranoia or jealousy. But I didn't find anything. Not one message out of line. No evidence of an affair. Just silence. Clean inboxes. Empty DMs. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt hollow. Adam sensed it, of course. He asked me if I'd been snooping. And instead of owning up to it, I gaslit him. I lied. Told him I didn't need to. Told him I trusted him. I didn't. He kept pressing and I kept denying. I could feel the hypocrisy crawling under my skin. He lied to me, so I violated his privacy. He evaded, I interrogated. We were in this endless dance where no one could quite prove the other wrong, but we both felt betrayed. And yet, what haunts me isn't the lies. It's that I never got the chance to know the truth before reacting. If he had just said, "Hey, I hung out with Sarah," maybe I would have been irritated, but I wouldn't have been devastated. It was the lie that cut me. The way he edited reality to make me more comfortable, rather than treating me like a partner capable of handling the truth. And the worst part? I don't even know if he realizes the damage he's done. To him, they were harmless lies. White lies. Ones he says were meant to keep the peace. But to me, they were proof that the peace was never real. Just a performance. One I wasn't even allowed to audition for. Now, we're in this limbo. Not broken, not healed. Just 2 people walking around the crater of a fight that neither of us fully knows how to come back from. And I don't know what scares me more, that he might be hiding more from me, or that I might never trust him even if he isn't. And now, after one of the worst fights we've ever had, one full of accusations, lies, deflection, and honestly, deep emotional whiplash, Adam went out of town for a night. It was something he'd planned with his brother, just a quick trip for an event they both liked, and under normal circumstances, I probably wouldn't have given it a second thought. But we weren't in normal circumstances. We were in the middle of something messy and fragile, and very much unresolved. While he was gone, I found a Facebook account he had made. A second account. One I had never seen before. And I watched in real time as he messaged Sarah. The same Sarah he had lied to me about being alone with not once, but twice. The same Sarah he never told me was there the night he got high in a parking lot and took a ride home from work. The same Sarah who, at this point, had become the symbol of every little doubt I'd been holding on to. And the thing is, I knew what he was doing. It wasn't subtle. The way he was texting her that night wasn't about genuine connection or flirtation, even though the messages read that way. He was trying to get a reaction from me. He was using her to bait me into exposing the fact that I'd been snooping. He wanted to set a trap. It was manipulative as hell, and honestly, it worked. I didn't take the bait, but it shook me up in a way I still haven't quite processed. Because even though I knew the messages were designed to hurt me, they still did. He flirted with her. There's no other word for it. He complimented her, hinted at how much he enjoyed her company, used those subtle little flirty lines that make it clear you're testing the waters without outright saying it. She didn't really respond in kind, at least not in a way that seemed mutual. And weirdly, that was a small relief to me. Because that lack of reciprocation from her solidified what I had suspected. Nothing physical had ever happened between them. Whatever was there, if there was anything, was mostly in his head. Or mine. Or somewhere in between. After that, things went quiet for a bit. I didn't confront him right away. I sat with it. I watched him. I tried to decide if I was willing to keep going in a relationship where I felt like I constantly had to do detective work just to feel secure. But we eventually sat down.
For real this time.
No yelling. No baiting.
Just talking.
We don't have the money for couples therapy right now, though God knows we probably need it. So we've been trying to patch things together ourselves. Slow, awkward, clumsy conversations about trust and boundaries and what respect looks like when the other person isn't looking. We've come a long way, but I'd be lying if I said it was easy. Because it's not. It's really hard. It's hard because Sarah still works with him. He's blocked her on everything, no texts, no Instagram, no Facebook, but they still see each other at work. And no matter how much I tell myself nothing is going on, that part of my brain that got twisted up in all those lies can't seem to shut up. I don't know what happens at work. I can't see that. I don't have a live feed into the restaurant. I just have to trust him. And right now, trust feels like trying to rebuild a house with a box of wet matches. He keeps insisting that what he did with Sarah, especially the Facebook messages, wasn't cheating. That it was a setup. That it was part of this elaborate plan to catch me snooping. He says his intent wasn't to actually pursue anything with her, just to manipulate me into admitting I'd gone through his accounts. As if that is the real betrayal here. But here's what I keep coming back to. Sarah didn't know it was a setup. She didn't know she was part of some trap. She thought she was getting flirty texts from a married man, 14 years older than her. From her coworker. From someone who had already lied to his wife about spending time alone with her. That's not just a gotcha moment. That's emotional recklessness. That's disrespect. And to me, yeah, that's cheating. Because even if the intention wasn't real, the impact was. He put himself in a position where he was intentionally crossing boundaries just to get a rise out of me. He flirted with another woman knowing it would hurt me. He used his emotional connection with someone else to punish me for snooping instead of dealing with our issues in a healthy, adult way. And when I told him that, when I said, this felt like cheating, he brushed it off. Said I was being dramatic. Said I was twisting things. But here's my truth. Cheating isn't just about sex. It's about betrayal. About secrecy. About crossing lines that your partner doesn't know you're stepping over. He lied. Repeatedly. He created a scenario that emotionally hurt me. On purpose. He used another woman who had nothing to do with our issues as a pawn in this mind game, and I'm supposed to just be okay with that? And I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out now. Was it cheating? Emotionally, yes. Without a doubt. And I don't think he fully understands that. He's so stuck on intent, but I'm stuck on impact. I keep trying to explain to him that when you're married, you don't just get to define what cheating is on your own. It's not a solo decision. If your partner feels betrayed, if they feel broken by something you did with someone else, then you've already crossed a line. Whether you meant to or not. I've spoken to Sarah, by the way. Before all this, we were friendly. Not best friends, but close enough that we'd hung out socially a few times. And after everything, I reached out. I needed to hear it from her. And she was kind.
Honest.
She didn't deny anything. She told me that she never thought Adam's behavior was appropriate and that she didn't want to be involved in our issues. She never pushed any boundaries. He did that all on his own. So here I am now, still with him, still trying to rebuild. Still waking up some mornings with a pit in my stomach wondering if I'm making the right choice. But I want to make it work. I really do. I don't believe he cheated physically. I don't think he's a terrible person. But I do think he has a long way to go in understanding what it means to be a trustworthy partner. And I guess what I'm looking for is perspective. Would you consider this cheating if it happened to you? If your partner lied to you about being alone with someone, then later messaged that same person flirty texts, whether as a trap or not, would that be enough for you to say a line had been crossed? And if so, how do I explain that to him in a way that he'll actually hear? Because I'm so tired of feeling like the crazy one, when all I'm asking for is honesty, respect, and the basic decency of not being made to feel like I'm losing my mind.